Quail's Knitting Nest. My name is Joy, and this is my nest. Today I'm going to start by telling you about my shawl. This is the way I usually wear it, wrapped up nice and warm around my neck, because in these in-between seasons in spring and fall, when the back of my neck is exposed, I get cold. If I can keep the back of my neck warm, then the rest of me stays pretty warm. So this is what it looks like when I have it. I can't see the back, but hopefully the point is showing down there. So I have it all wrapped up. Other people I know wear it with the point in the front, but I find that when I do that, then it doesn't cover up the back of my neck, which is where I need the warmth. So if I were going to do it this way, look like that, but then the back of my neck is showing, and that's where I want it covered up. That's just me. So this is my shawl. Make sure I show you the right side here. It's a triangular shawl. It's called Swallowtail, and it's by Evelyn Clark. It starts with a garter tab right here at the top middle, and then works out in triangles down the edges all the way to the final edge, which is the triangle at the bottom. You can see the center spine there where the increases are, and then along the very top edge, you can't really see them actually, but there's increases all along the top edge. So every right side row has 4 increases, 1 at the edge, 2 at the center spine, and 1 at the other edge. And that's how you shape the shawl. It has one main pattern for the central motif here, and then it has 2 border patterns. What's called Lily of the Valley pattern here, and then a final border here. So the Lily of the Valley is the curved shape one, and then the final border at the bottom. The Lily of the Valley pattern is shaped with noops, which are like baubles, only harder to work. So I have replaced the noops with beads. And then there were no noops or anything in the bottom. I just added the beads because I had them and I wanted to use them. And I find it gives the shawl nice weight along the edge to hold it down. The pattern originally was in Interweave Knits. This is fall 2006. This is the pattern. Swallowtail shawl. And that's the picture. The original pattern was much smaller, so I enlarged mine because I wanted to use as much of the yarn as I could. And without my glasses on, I find it hard to see which is the right side. I used JaggerSpun Zephyr yarn, which is a lace weight. It comes in a 56-gram ball, which has 630 yards in it. And I wanted to use the whole ball. So to enlarge the shawl, what I did was I added more of these repeats in the middle to make it longer, and then did the edging. So I used up almost all of the yarn. I was very happy with that. And for me, this is the perfect size and the perfect color. I find myself wearing this multiple times a week in the in-between seasons, spring and fall, when I have a naked back neck and I need to keep it warm. This I find to be my go-to shawl. Because it's gray, it goes with almost everything I own, so it's easy to pair, and it's just the right size. It doesn't cover up too much in the back if I have something else that I want people to see. Like, for example, if I want them to see the yoke of the sweater, then when I put this on, the shawl doesn't cover up too much of it. So I just tie it like this, and then I pull it down in the front to cover my front neck, and then the triangle in the back covers up my back neck, and then you can still see most of the yoke of the sweater. And then it's warm around my neck. I used a total of 420 beads in this shawl, if you're interested, if you want to know. I made it longer. And the pattern now, so this came out in fall of 2006. I made the shawl in 2011, so 5 years later, which is kind of my normal MO. I rarely make an item as soon as it comes out. I know a lot of people see something and they jump on the bandwagon and they make it right away. And I do that occasionally, but it's rare for me. Often I will sit on either the yarn and or the pattern for years before I actually make something. So I made this 5 years after it came out. But now I see that it's a free download on Ravelry. So if you too would like to make the Swallowtail shawl, you can get it for yourself for free. Next, I'd like to mention my favorite video podcast or YouTube channel or knitting show or whatever you want to call it. It's called Fruity Knitting, and they've been around now for 4 years, and they're up to 108 episodes. That show is like, it's kind of like a knitting, almost a variety show. It's an hour and 15 to an hour and a half long, usually, but it's broken up into segments. So it has normal knitting video content. For example, this is what I'm working on now, this is what I finished this week, this is the yarn that I'm using, stuff like I would give you. But it also gives you other content. They have a featured interview, at least one featured interview every episode, which is very in-depth. It's often 20 to 30 minutes long, and it's the bulk of the episode. And they interview amazing people. A lot of people you've heard of, but then a lot of people you have not heard of. And whether you've heard of them or not, you always learn something, or they're teaching you something usually unusual, or like, wow, I didn't know that, or just teach you something. This is how to do something, whatever. Some names you might have heard of are Ann Budd, Caitlin Hunter, a couple of big names in the knitting world. My personal favorite, Meg Swansen. I'm going to put a link to that video in the show notes. Meg Swansen's interview is in episode 57. And then they have other segments. They will do Knitters of the World, so they'll feature the podcast, the folks that put it together, Andrew and Andrea, live in Germany, but they interview people from around the world. So they have a segment called Knitters of the World, so they'll feature people from anywhere: Australia, United States, Brazil, the Nordic countries. In fact, I think all of their content is English speaking, so they try to make it an English speaking focus. And I can't think of even one where they interviewed somebody that was not an English speaker. So that does limit their pool of people that they have on the show. But since English is kind of a universal language, it works for for the most part. So they have Knitters of the World. They have other segments, new releases. So if a designer has a brand new pattern that she has out, sometimes they'll have a little segment on that. Also, there's Meet the Shepherdess. They've done videos in the past of people on farms and how they care for their sheep and what they do with the wool, which are fun. They have extreme knitting, which has been a thing all the way since the beginning. Andrew and Andrea are avid outdoors people. They like to hike and go to interesting places, and they take their knitting with them, and so they show them knitting in extreme places. So I call it extreme knitting. So it's a podcast that I really enjoy. Now, the reason I bring it up is because just this week they released their latest video, which was an announcement that Andrew, the husband, was diagnosed with an unoperable malignant brain tumor, which is horrific. I can't imagine. And they had gotten to the point where this Fruity Knitting Show was their only source of income. Andrea has started it herself in the beginning at part-time and then moved into it full-time. And then a year ago, Andrew quit his job and also joins the podcast as his full-time job. So now the two of them have been working on this full-time, but he's now sick. So this is horrible circumstances for them. If you're interested and you'd like to check out the podcast, it's totally has great content, and I highly recommend it. And then if you like it as well, you might consider supporting them during this hard time in their lives. Next, I would like to talk to you about Knitters Day Out. So, as I had mentioned before, it was virtual this year, and I did 2 classes for it, which I linked to in the last episode. Maybe you watched them. Since the event was virtual, I had to go virtual yarn shopping. I was hoping to get a sweater's quantity of yarn from one of my favorite vendors there, which is Distelfink. However, I wanted to get her farm yarn. I didn't want to get the superwash stuff that she dyes. I wanted to get the farm yarn from their own sheep. And when I looked, she didn't have any single color in enough for a sweater. So I will show you what I ended up buying. She had 2 colors that were very similar to each other. They're 2 purples. This one is called Lavender, and this one is called Prairie Thistle. I don't know how they look on the video, but the 2 purples are very close in color. The lavender has a more marled look to it. It has a dark purple strand and a light purple strand spun together. And the purple or prairie thistle has kind of a kettle dyed look to it. It's basically one color, but it has ins and outs of lighter and darkers. So I got 3 of the prairie thistle and 2 of the lavender. I bought out all her purples. This was all the purple that she had left. So I have 5 skeins. It might be enough for a sweater. But then I also got an accent color here. Goldenrod, this is called. Now I'm not sure. You'll have to let me know in the comments. What do you think? Does the gold go with the purple? I kind of think it does, but I'm not sold on it. I know I'm going to let this sit for a while I think about what I want to do with it and if I want to use the gold with the purple or not. Or maybe I'll wait a year and see what new colors she has. Let me know in the comments. What do you think? Does the gold go with the purple, or should I try for something else? And do you think the 2 purples are close enough that I could use them together? Or should I wait? So I got this through the mail because it was a virtual sale. And I really don't like buying yarn online. It's so hard. And you look at the pictures and you're like, is the color I see on the computer the same as what it's going to come? I think these were pretty close. I knew it was going to be a purple, and I knew that the purples were pretty close in color. In fact, on the computer, I really couldn't tell the difference between the purples, but I could see it after I got them. So I ordered it online, and she sent it to me. And I got the little fun little grab bag that came with it. She sent a rose quartz lotion tin from Mulberry Hill Farm, which is where Distelfink is from. Mulberry Hill Farm is her parents, and then Distelfink is Megan herself. She's the dyer. And then it also came with a little sachet. Ooh, that smells. I'll have to tuck that in my underwear drawer or something. So that was fun. Nice little bonus that came with my yarn. Oh, and she also sent a personalized note. It had my name on the front. Little thank you card for buying from her. Thank you so much for your order. And then inside of that were 3 stitch markers. So it's the gift that keeps on giving. And I have to show you the tissue paper that it came wrapped up in. This is the cutest. Look, it has a little sheep on it. Isn't that adorable? That's super cool. I'm saving this. I'm going to reuse this for something. So that's my stash enhancement. Okay, what am I working on now? In the winter, before everything shut down, I purchased this yarn. This is Deluxe Worsted Superwash. And I bought 8 skeins of it, intending to use it to make a sweater for my husband. So I had the yarn, and I've been sitting on it, knowing that I wasn't going to make it until this fall. I'm hoping to get the sweater done by Christmas. And I've been idly looking, not seriously searching for patterns, what to do, what to make with it. Originally, I had thought I might make Elizabeth Zimmerman's hybrid, I forget what it's called, it's a hybrid sweater. And it has a saddle shoulder with edging along the edge of the saddle that sets off the shoulder. It's just a plain knit. I mean, you could put whatever pattern you want into it, but it's plain knit with demarcated shoulders here from the saddle. Jared Flood had done a version of it years ago that I always really liked, and my friend Natalie recently did one. So that pattern's been on my list for a while. But then this fall rolled around, and I'm warming up. So I can just take this off and cool off. This fall, some patterns have been coming through my view, and a couple of them I thought, maybe I'll make that one instead. Maybe I'll make that one instead. So I've been slowly filling up my queue with these patterns, figuring when it got to be time, I would finally decide which one. And then one came along, and I was thinking, I'll make this for myself, because I have other yarn that I want to use to make a cardigan for myself. And this pattern came along, and I was like, I really like that. I think I'll use that for a cardigan for myself. And then, so that was like a preview that I had seen. And then came out the, oh, it's on sale this week, buy it now. And it had a photo. It's both a pullover and a cardigan, and it's cabled. And in the photo was the designer and her husband modeling the sweater. And when I saw her husband wearing the sweater, I thought, that's the one. That's the one I'm going to make for Jim. So the sweater I've decided to make is called Affiknity by Lyons. I'll put a picture up here for you because it's an online pattern and I haven't printed it out. The only thing I printed out so far is the schematic because I want to fill in Jim's measurements on the sheet so that I can figure out what it is I'm doing. So this pattern is not just a pattern. Normally a sweater pattern might cost you $6 to $10, anywhere in that region, depending on what kind of pattern. This one, the so-called retail price is $28. She has it on sale for $20, and you can get another $2 off if you use a special code. So I got it for $18. And the reason that it's so much more expensive than a normal pattern is it's not just a pattern, it's a video sweater class. So in the pattern are links to a whole ton of videos that show you step by step how to do everything in the pattern. So the most beginner person to the most advanced person can use this pattern and successfully make the sweater. So it went on sale mid-October. The first portion of the pattern drops November 1st, which will be for swatching, and then the full pattern itself drops November 15th. So if you are interested in making this sweater with me, you can join along too, because it doesn't start till November 15th. And because it's an online video sweater class, you can make it at any time. The video links are always up and always live. So you could make it in November or December or January. She's going to have live Q&As once a month. Those 3 months, November, December, January. And then after that, there won't be live Q&As, but the video class videos will still be up and you can make the pattern at any time in the future. So that's excellent. I did make my first swatch, which is just a stockinette. Her gauge is 21 stitches to the inch on a size 7 needle. This is worsted weight yarn. Now I know I'm a loose knitter, and I almost always have to go down to a size 5. And for my swatch, yep, I had to do it again. I had to go down to a size 5. Now I've mentioned before about my row gauge being usually too long, like with this sweater, it ended up underneath my arm instead of all up in the yoke like it should have been. Well, again with this, her row gauge is 30 stitches and 4 inches, or 30 rows and 4 inches, and mine is only 25. So my rows, they're just longer. I don't know why, but maybe it's the needles that I use. I have Addy Turbos that I use. I just love them. They're my favorite needles. So anyway, I know I'm going to have to make adjustments in the length because of my row gauge. But in the video sweater class, she tells you exactly how to do that. So if your row gauge is off as well, you don't have to worry too much about how to fix it because she's going to show you how. So this is the beginning of a little adventure, but I'm hoping to have done for Christmas. I hope you are well. Let me know in the comments. I love to hear from you. That's all I have for you today. Take care. Bye-bye.